Does a woman have the right to choose abortion? This question is often rising in debate, reignited by a likely legal turnaround in the US. The United States Supreme Court has overturned a constitutional right granted in a landmark 1973 ruling called Roe vs. Wade, which had legalized abortion across the country. In this video, we will deep dive in this topic to know what is this judgment from 5 decades ago that has now been overturned.
Supreme Court after the landmark decision that overturned Roe vs. Wade and ended a woman's constitutional right to an abortion.
What is Roe vs. Wade? Two Texas-based attorneys, Sarah Weddington and Linda Coffey, were dealing with several cases regarding abortion litigation in the US during the 1970s. During the course of their cases, they decided to file a suit stating that abortions were medically necessary for women. What they needed was a plaintiff who would help them make a valid case before the court. Their first plaintiff was a married couple who agreed to come on board, but in this the woman was not pregnant. In June 1969, they met 21-year-old Norma McCorvey, who was then pregnant with her third child. She eventually became the lead plaintiff in the case, even though she wasn't able to get an abortion on time and did not attend any of the oral argument. Case reopened. 33 years later, at the age of 55, Norma McCorvey filed an affidavit in a district court in Texas saying that she got involved in the case without fully understanding its ramifications. When she met Weddington and Coffey for the first time, they asked her, "Norma, don't you think that abortion should be legal?" In her affidavit, Norma said, "Unsure," I responded, "that I did not know. In fact, I did not know what the term abortion really even meant." The lawyers reportedly told her that they had met 2 or 3 other women, but they didn't fit their criteria. She asked them what made her fit the criteria. They replied, "You are white, you are young, pregnant, and you want an abortion." The lawsuit was filed in district court in Texas in 1970 on behalf of McCorvey under the pseudonym Jane Roe. The defendant was the county's district attorney Henry Wade. In June 1970, the court ruled in favor of Jane Roe and stated that the law was against abortion in Texas, violated the right to privacy, but did not grant an injunction which would allow McCorvey to get an abortion. An appeal was filed in Supreme Court later in 1970, and in January 1973, in a 7-2 decision, the US Supreme Court held that women in the United States had the right to choose whether they wanted to get an abortion or not. The ruling that came in favor of Jane Roe extensively spoke against excessive government control and restrictions and upheld the individual's right to life and liberty. The decision was written by Justice Harry Blackmun. The judgment relied heavily upon an earlier judgment from 1965, which had struck down a ban on contraceptives imposed by the state and upheld the liberty of married couples to use a contraceptive without governmental restrictions. Why has the decision been overturned? The US Supreme Court now in a 6-3 judgment overturned Roe vs. Wade in a case called Planned Parenthood vs. Casey, stating that the Constitution makes no reference to abortion and no such right is implicitly protected by any constitutional provision. The majority opinion has been drafted by Justice Samuel Alito, who is joined by Justices Clarence Thomas, Neil Gorsuch, Brett Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. Chief Justice John Roberts wrote a separate but concurring opinion. Justices Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan dissented. Merely minutes after the ruling, states across America began imposing a ban on abortions. More states are expected to follow suit in coming days. Reports suggest that roughly half the states in the US are expected to be impacted. Last month, a draft opinion of the judgment was leaked, which had indicated that such a ruling may come through from the top court. Abortion right activists across the country have criticized the judgment and raised serious concern about its impact. US President Joe Biden, who addressed the nation soon after the decision, was pronounced to call it a sad day for the country.
The Supreme Court on Wednesday heard arguments over a law in Mississippi that bans abortions after 15 weeks of pregnancy.
What is Mississippi law? In 2018, the Republican majority legislature of the state of Mississippi banned most abortions after 15 weeks, much before fetal viability, and sooner than was allowed by Roe, throwing a direct challenge to the 1973 judgment. Then, last remaining abortion clinic in the state, Jackson Women's Health Organization, which provided abortion services up to 16 weeks of pregnancy, challenged the law, and in November that year, U.S. District Judge Carlton Reeves struck it down, ruling that it unequivocally violated the constitutional rights of women. On March 19, 2019, then Republican Governor Phil Bryant signed the so-called heartbeat abortion law, an even more restrictive measure that banned most abortions once fetal cardiac activity could be detected, which is about 6 weeks. Bryant challenged the opponents of the law to sue if they do not believe in sanctity of life. These that are in organizations like Planned Parenthood, we will have to fight that fight, but it is worth it. The Associated Press reported at that time, the heartbeat law that physicians who performed an abortion after a fetal heartbeat was detected could have their medical licenses revoked. The law made no exceptions for pregnancy caused by rape or incest. This law too was blocked by a district judge, and in February 2020, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans agreed with the decision. In December 2019, the circuit had also kept in place the block on the other 2018 law, when the 2018 law which banned abortion if the probable gestational age of unborn human was determined to be more than 15 weeks, except in cases of medical emergencies or a severe fetal abnormality, reached the Supreme Court. There were indications in the hearing in December 2021 that the bench was likely to uphold it. A decision in the matter was then expected in June or July 2022. It ultimately came on June 24. Why is this decision of Supreme Court important? The issue of abortion has sharply split opinion among conservatives and liberals in the US for decades. Until a few years ago, a challenge to Roe vs. Wade would have been unlikely to succeed, but the changes in character of Supreme Court following the appointments of conservative Justices Gorsuch, Kavanaugh and Barrett during the Donald Trump presidency gave rise to a fresh spurt of litigation around the issue. The clear conservative majority in the Supreme Court gave the conservatives their best chance for decades to overturn Roe. Liberal commentators have predicted seismic changes in American society as a result of the overturning of Roe. What will happen in the US now? Since there is no federal law protecting the right to abortion in the US, the overturning of Roe leaves abortion laws entirely up to the state. Conservative states will likely bring back restrictive laws that prohibited abortion before Supreme Court set the fetal viability standard in 1973. Activists and progressive politicians have said that availability of clinics, insurance payouts are crucial issues that form part of the struggle of many women, even with the backing of Roe. With this legal backing gone, access could become even harder. Now let's talk about position of abortion in India. India's Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971 allows abortion until 20 weeks of pregnancy. Through an amendment in 2021, the ceiling for abortions was raised to 24 weeks, but only for special categories of pregnant women, such as incest survivors, that too with the approval of 2 registered doctors. In approximately 16 countries around the world, abortion is entirely prohibited and even criminalized, but severe Catholic majority nations such as Ireland and Mexico have decriminalized abortion in the last decade. Please let me know your thoughts about this case in comment section. For more such videos, feel free to like this video, share with your friends, and also subscribe to our channel for more interesting and upcoming videos. Thank you, friends.